Yeah, that's right. I dripped out for it.
Oh my God, you're so drippy.
Yeah, I know. I'm dripping all over the place. Hey, if I'm gonna be online, gotta be dripped out.
You even got a new haircut for it.
This is the old haircut. It's always been this.
Yep, you've always had short hair.
Oh,
Famously, Orion, nice short hair
the whole time.
the whole time. No
All right, this
beard.
feels. No one's even gonna know what you're referencing.
No one knows what I'm referencing
Cut
ever.
this. Cut this.
I'm not cutting this. Okay, welcome
You
to.
have a cutting problem. I saw your previous episodes. You have a cutting problem.
What do you mean? I don't cut enough? I
Yeah,
cut
you
too
need to
much.
cut more.
Oh, I'm not. That's not at all the. Welcome to Three Questions, Three Questions, Three Questions, Three Questions, Three Questions, the only podcast where I ask three questions and I have a guest ask me three questions. Today's special guest is Orion Kornfeld, and Orion, you ready to say what we always say at the start of every episode?
Vorpal storm.
Wow, Warwolf indeed. You want to kick us off with the first question?
Oh, wow. Okay. First one to me. All right. I'm going to start with kind of my underhand toss here.
Mhm.
Okay. You work in beveraging. If you were to imagine like a graph where one axis is surprising and one axis is interesting,
Mhm.
and you want to maximize the area under the curve, what's one fact about the beverage industry that you would say gets the most net amount of surprising and interesting for someone who doesn't know about it?
Okay,
You can
I'll
swear, right?
yeah, sure. I'll
Nice.
maybe bleep it, maybe not. We'll see how I'm feeling.
Too
So
bad.
uh, the fact that I think is very important for people to know as a member of the American public is this. Um, the first liquor license given for the production slash distillation of liquor in the United States given to a black person was first given in 2017. That is throughout US history. Many of the first master distillers in the United States were enslaved people. For example, there is a brand called Uncle Nearest that was named after a enslaved person who went by the name Uncle Nearest, and he is who taught. I don't remember which one it was. One of the big whiskey brands. It's maybe like Jim Beam. One of them. The original person, the Jim Beam, how to brew, how to distill. And now come to modern day, and I mean, it's partially because getting a distiller's license requires a lot of skill, and it's partially because it's very expensive. And it's partially because the liquor industry is white men's club, basically. Um,
Well, he'll fit right in then.
well, I don't really want to be in the liquor industry to
Well,
begin with.
so out of curiosity, and I hope I feel like I'm allowed to ask other questions that are obviously following up. What's
Yeah.
the denominator look like on that? Like, is it just like almost nobody makes liquor actually has ever had licenses, and there's only like 50 people who've ever had them? Or are we talking like thousands of people have gotten them and they've pretty much all been white men up until 2017?
Um, we are talking like thousands of people. I mean, these
Yeah.
go back a very long time. And it's there's a difference between a distiller's license. I keep calling it a liquor license. A liquor license is actually a license to sell liquor. Talking about distiller's licenses here,
Hmm.
which is a license to produce liquor. Most companies who do distillation only have one license. Like that's how it works. You have a license for the company, which means fewer people than you would think would actually need a license.
That is wild.
Okay, so you gave me a nice, easy little
Yeah.
volley. Are
So,
you ready for are
you
you
know,
ready for a nice little like underhand toss your way?
yeah, that is,
Okay.
yeah,
You're really into board games,
yeah.
and I'm curious, what are your favorite board game mechanics that you see often in board
Oh.
games that you like? And perhaps how do you then use those mechanics to decide what board games you're curious to try next?
Yeah, that was a surprisingly hard one. That's your easy one? If that's your easy one, I don't want
Oh
to know
my
what the
God.
hard ones are gonna be like.
Here, let me rephrase that. Let me change the question a little bit for you.
Yeah, okay.
What are your favorite board games?
No, no. I don't baby me. Well, I like social deduction games, and I'm just trying to think like concretely. Well, okay. I mean, this is pretty, but then it leads into sort of a boring answer, which is that my favorite board games are just games where people have secret roles and there's, two teams normally, and you don't know who's on which team, which I guess I could have just started with that. Um, but yeah, I mean, I don't know, I enjoyed that. I think those games are better the more information is like out there in a way.
Mhm.
You're like, all right, let's do a wee bit of a deep dive. For anyone who's, I don't know, not a huge board game enthusiast, there's a progression um, of three games all released by the same company where it goes Resistance, and then they release a new version called Avalon, which is like just better. Then they release a new version of Avalon called Quest, which is just like better.
Mm.
And so in all three of these games, you still have the same basic, like half the team are like evil spies, or just under half the team. And the good guys don't know who the spies are. And, chaos ensues, lots of lies and skullduggery. But in the early games, like in Resistance and Avalon, there's just much less general information available to the good guys. So at the end of the day, you're often going mostly off vibes.
Mhm.
Um, there's fewer like mapping out contingencies.
Mhm.
By the end, by Quest, it's gotten to the point where, hypothetically, if you had enough time and enough paper to draw branching tree diagrams, you could literally map out every contingency. Like, I mean, functionally, you can't do that, but I think it makes it a much more interesting game because you can kind of combine a certain level of rationality with also the sort of social intelligence of just like, oh, this guy's talking too loud. I think he's lying. If there were another board game where I thought it was that great combination of sort of information availability leading to logical narrowing of the possibility space combined with just people lying and yelling at each other, like that'd be great.
You need
Uh,
to play Blood on the Clock Tower.
yeah, I think
I play like monthly, and based on what you just described that you want to play Blood on the Clock Tower.
I think so. Yeah, I don't really like go out there and try new board games very often.
Mm.
Like the number of board games I play is way higher, or the number of times I play board games is insanely high compared to the number of board games I play,
Mm.
especially over the years. So yeah, I definitely need to try more stuff out. But yeah, I mean, I'd totally be down to try Blood on the Clock Tower.
You got another question for me?
I got it. Yes, I have a question for you. You have had a lot of health issues. His joints all hurt. He's in a lot of pain in his body. And he used to have a really messed up stomach too.
Mm.
So, that's just like quite a bit of his sort of physical pain to deal with. I mean, especially for someone in their young 20s. I guess my question is, I mean, how do you sort of manage that and yet you still have a fairly sunny disposition? Like that's an interesting thing to me.
Um, I think the fact that I got diagnosed with ulcerative colitis during COVID, it was like a double whammy. It was like too bad at the same time.
Hmm.
And then I had 2 years while everyone else was like hidden away to figure out how to do a reasonable amount of pain management and to figure out what medication works for me and to have constant access to a bathroom. And like I basically got 2 years at like I was like diagnosed at exactly the right time to have 2 years to figure everything out. And so I think the fact that I was like hidden away with the ability to like lay in my bed in pain was kind of perfect the way it lined up. Um,
Hmm.
because then you start to figure out, okay, like when my joints are in pain, I need warmth so I can like take a bath or I could use a heat pad. When
Hmm.
my colon is in pain, that means that there is a food that is causing that pain that I should stop eating, right? So then I started decreasing the amount of insoluble fiber I was eating, increasing the amount of soluble fiber I was eating,
Hmm.
and like working on being like, okay, popcorn is really painful. I'm not eating any more popcorn, right?
Hmm.
Um, and once you like start to figure out those patterns, you're able to manage them. And once you figure out what medications work for you, you're able to manage that. And so it was really just like now my like average day's pain is like at a 1 or a 2, whereas originally it was at like a 6 or a 7.
Wow.
And so it's like I that's like nothing, right? I'm chilling, you know? Um
Yeah.
so I feel like that's the simple thing. It's just like I kind of figured out how to deal with it and I had the time and space in a way that most people don't get the time and space.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. That makes sense. Yeah, because by the time you hit college, I mean, you're just doing a ton of stuff, all sorts of adventures. It seems like that'd be like, yeah, it seems like you'd have to have things pretty well figured out to do all the stuff you did, which you did.
Well, and even if like at the start of college, I still didn't have stuff perfectly figured out.
Hmm.
Um, but it's a lot more fun to be in pain on top of a mountain than to be in pain laying in your room. And if you're going to be in pain in either place, you might as well go frolic around a little bit. That's how I see it. Now that's if you're at pain that's like a 9 or a 10, you obviously can't do that. Like it
Yeah.
because I was able to get it down to like a 1 or a 2,
Yeah.
then I was able to go do that. Um,
Yeah. Absolutely. That's interesting. I totally believe that, ironically, the sort of pandemic shutdown helped a lot with, having the time and the space to experiment with that. I mean, that's when I got into meditation, which has sort of become like a defining personality trait of mine.
I'm so happy you brought up meditation because you'll never guess what my next question for you is.
Oh, great. Oh, here it comes. All right, what is it?
Okay. I want you to imagine
Uh,
someone who has never heard of the concept of meditation before. Like,
mm,
hasn't heard of meditation, doesn't know what it is, uh, and doesn't care about it at all. And I
mm.
want, I guess my question is, how would you convince that person to care about meditation? And how would you explain what meditation is and why it's so important to you, to that person?
So, weirdly enough, I think I'm going to start with the why you should meditate before I get into the what it is. A, that's an easier question to answer. And B, um, that's actually, if you want to persuade something to do something, that's actually how you should approach it. Like if I were trying to persuade a meditation skeptic, I would probably want to start with the benefits. How so? For my own life, the benefits of meditation would be markedly less anxiety, markedly fewer, just like markedly less amount of time where I'm feeling sad or depressed or just down in the dumps. Happier moments are happier. Like if I were to get an ice cream cone before versus after I start meditating, like it's just gonna hit different in the sort of post-meditation mindset, if that makes sense. Those are a lot of the tangibles. You pick up a few kind of Boy Scout tricks along the way, like raising your body temperature, being relatively unperturbed by minor pain.
What do you
Um,
mean by Boy Scout tricks here?
well, I think a technique that you can just do to get a specific goal, whereas a lot of the other stuff is more like global, like if you meditate every day, you feel more happy, you feel less anxious, yada yada. But like if you meditate every day, it's not like you'll magically be warmer in cold weather. But along the way, you can learn a specific technique to literally increase your body temperature in like cold weather. And it's like, man, that's a Boy Scout trick. You know what I'm saying? Falling asleep quickly too, that's another great Boy Scout trick.
Mm,
I have had, I've definitely had a decent amount of insomnia in my life, not as bad as some people.
mm,
In the 5 years since I started meditating, I think I only had trouble falling asleep like for more than an hour twice. And probably the amount of times it took me more than 25 minutes to fall asleep has probably been fewer than 10. That's over a 5 year period.
wow.
Yeah, no, meditation, yeah, it's insanely good for falling asleep quickly too. That was for my own life. I took to meditation quite well.
Yeah.
But I do think there's a fair amount of research suggesting that a lot of those are probably translatable. Oh, and of course, better self-control. How did I forget about that?
Mm,
Yeah, like if you've got like a problem like doom scrolling through Instagram for like 3 hours a day, meditation, if you do consistently, is actually like insanely good for not doing that.
mm,
Like really good for not doing that. Yeah, I forgot to mention that. The self-control benefits are like enormous. I'm gonna give a somewhat unconventional definition because if you want the conventional definition, just Google it. I'm gonna say meditation is any time where you set aside a certain amount of time, maybe 3 minutes, maybe 30 minutes, probably something in between, and you make it your goal that at any given moment during that time, if you were asked what you were aware of, you could answer the question. Like if someone tapped you on the shoulder and said, "What are you aware of now?" You could answer that question pretty easily. Yeah, so they tend to be practices that are meant to calm your emotions and increase your awareness. Yeah, I know that's not a great explanation of it, but it's really all about awareness in a sense. Meditation are just exercises for your awareness all around. They're exercises so that you can be more aware of what you're aware of. They're exercises so that you can be more focused in what you're aware of. Gemini could have defined it just well.
Um, do you have a third question for me?
Yes, I do.
Mm,
If I were omniscient, then I could answer any question.
mhm.
What question would you ask me?
If you were omniscient
Yes.
and could answer any question,
Yes.
what question would I ask you?
Yeah. So you can find out anything.
I could find out anything. Oh my God, that's a daunting task.
You thought you were going to get to answer a question, didn't you? You didn't realize you're going to have to ask one
Yeah,
more.
asking questions is hard. That's one of the biggest things I've learned from making this podcast is once a month I have to sit down for like an hour and come up with questions.
Really?
Yeah, I have to like I came up with like more questions for you and then I chose the three best ones.
Huh.
Um,
Like 2 minutes.
I see. That's what
Oh, that's
meditation
fucking
does.
such terrible questions, right?
No, you asked very good questions. Um, if I could ask any question, I feel like chances are I would ask something, I would ask a what or a why question. But here's the other thing. Would I even be able to comprehend the answer? Like, if I ask, like, what is the meaning of life? I don't know if there is a human comprehensible answer to the question of what is the meaning of life, right?
Well,
If
yeah, but I'd probably do my best to explain it in a way to comprehend it.
if I asked,
I were this omniscient being, I'd probably be like, okay, how can I like explain this in English in terms that a human would understand?
hmm, if I
But
asked,
yeah, I mean, it might be like just utterly incomprehensible, like even trying to do that, you know?
if I asked, how does a mirror work? Which is a thing I know that is it's one of the questions famously scientists who have like gone to university and did not specifically do a PhD in optics really struggle to answer. Um, how does a mirror work?
The
Um,
light just like bounce off the mirror.
yeah, but I want like a physics and chemistry explanation, not like a light go bouncy kind of explanation. But yeah, I think I would
That is
probably
an interesting thing, right? Because you'd expect the like atoms to absorb the light, and so then seemingly they're re-releasing the light. So why do they re-release the light as if it got hit in an elastic collision? It's an
Yeah,
interesting
but
question.
it's my understanding absorption and re-emission isn't a real thing. It's just a convenient math trick.
Well,
Um,
everything in physics is a convenient math trick.
yeah,
Like none of it's really real.
it's all modeling. But point being, I would probably ask, uh,
Mhm.
why does the universe exist? And the answer I would probably get is a convenient math trick.
Um, yeah, I mean, okay, I gotta know. Do you mean in the sense of like when you say the universe, do you mean like everything that's happened post Big Bang? Because then the answer would probably just be like, oh, well, there's a universe before this, and it collapsed into a little ball, then exploded again. And then it's like, oh, well, great. Or do you mean just like, why did the whole cycle of exploding and then imploding matter and energy begin in the first place?
This is the problem with why questions. Because a why question can mean what caused this, but it also means for what reason did this cause get chosen? And those are two different questions of meaning. And I
Yeah,
find them
yeah, because
to,
one is inquiring about a causal chain and one is inquiring about purpose. But actually, the question I was bringing was drawing a distinction between two questions that are still both about causal chains.
yeah.
The question just being which effect are you curious about? Like in one case,
Well,
the effect is our universe, and you're just like, okay, what was the cause that led to this effect? And then the other case, it's like the question is the whole cycle
mm.
of universes. And the question is, and that's the effect. And it's like, okay, what caused? Like, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, you're much more confident in a big bounce than I think cosmologists actually are. Uh,
Sure.
if there was a big bounce, I would want to know why did the cycle begin? Um, but if there was not a big bounce, I would like to know why did the Big Bang begin?
Yeah, and I think as long as you define the universe as like matter and energy, you would be covering both those. You know, because like if there is a big bounce, then the omniscient being would just explain its very beginnings. And if there wasn't, then the whole thing just kind of disappears, like that's not even a concern anymore.
Okay, are you ready for your final question?
Yes.
Those of you who don't know, Orion is super interested in like neuroscience and like works in a neuroscience lab, has a degree in neuroscience from Duke. Big neuroscience guy. And here is my question. In the past, you've mentioned there's a lot of things about the brain we don't know.
Yeah.
Okay. Here's my curiosity is
Mhm.
what do you think will be the most interesting like thing we learn about the brain within our lifetime?
Yeah, that's a really good question. Consciousness, right?
Mhm.
All the stuff you're aware of
Yeah.
right now. We still don't really know which part of the brain lights up when you're conscious. We know some parts which are necessary, but we don't know which parts are sufficient. So, just to throw a little neuroscience at you,
Mhm.
you can think of the brain very broadly. Like, this is a very hand wavy, oversimplified thing, but you can say that there are three parts. There's like the lower parts, which are small and evolutionarily ancient. There's the middle parts, which actually aren't going to come up anymore. And then there's the top parts, which comprise an enormous volume, especially in human beings. They're like really enlarged. And they handle a lot of what we call, the higher functions, thinking, reasoning, imagination. But also they cover some pretty basic functions too, like sensation, things as simple as seeing, feeling, all that. All that's in the higher ones. Well, okay, but the lower ones are still very important just for like being awake or breathing.
Yeah.
So we know about some lower ones and some middle ones that are like necessary, but maybe not sufficient. So like you take
I
like
see.
right,
Like,
right. So you take like the brain stem, it's like if the brain stem is off, you're unconscious.
yeah.
But if the brain's if you're conscious, the brainstem is on no matter what you're conscious of. So whether you're like listening to a musical or debating your friend, or freaking out over giving a public speech, or just like doom scrolling while you eat cereal. Your brainstem more or less might be doing the same thing. And this is greatly oversimplifying it. There's a ton of like parasympathetic, sympathetic stuff that I'm just brushing over, but more or less.
Yeah.
And same for like your thalamus. Your thalamus is a big highway in your brain, pretty much all sensory information, at least from visual cortex, and I think other places, has to pass through it, you know. So we can say, oh, great, you know, your thalamus, if your thalamus gets deactivated, you know, you go to sleep, but it's not providing much more information, you know.
Mhm.
Um,
But we
I
don't
think,
actually know, like, okay, so these things are like things it sounds like that you need to know, you need to have turned on to be like alive, right? You're saying we don't actually know at all, like, where is the consciousness part of the brain?
yeah, and not even like we don't even know it in broad strokes. Like this year, or maybe last year, 2025, this big paper came out because there were two big competing like camps. And I'm not going to bore you with all the details, but long story short, one of them said, okay, consciousness is essentially in the back of your head,
Hmm.
you know, in your, so like your upper, you know, more advanced brain regions, but the ones in the back, that's what lights up when you're aware of a thing. And that's also, you would have to image that part to basically guess what people are conscious of. Then the other camp said, no, it's the front of your brain. They did this, I mean, it was great. They set up these huge series of experiments to basically, and both the groups met ahead of time and said, okay, these are the experiments that'll settle this.
Hmm.
No one was really 100% right. Both of the theories kind of fell flat. The back of the brain one actually seemed to be a little more accurate.
But they both fell flat. You're saying that they're both wrong.
Neither one is comprehensive. Like they're both going to need some edits if they're going to stand up at all. And even that is like a pretty, it's pretty hand wavy, right? They're looking at huge sections of the brain and seeing like, oh, you know, we're going to be right if like the huge part of the front of the brain lights up. Well, I mean, that's not very satisfying though, right? Like even if one of those two camps had been completely correct, it wouldn't have been an incredibly satisfying explanation. And right now we're really just limited by a lot of our imaging technologies. We've got one technique that's very accurate time-wise, but is terrible in terms of spatial. Like it can tell you when a neuron activated, but it can't tell you where it was. We've got the other one that's much better at telling you where it is, but its timing lags by like 5 seconds, which is a lot for neurons. Yeah.
I didn't realize there was a Schrodinger's principle for neurons. You can know the location or the time, but not both.
Yeah, but I mean, it's not like it's not exactly. Yeah, no, that's a great metaphor. It's a little different because then there is a third technique where you can know both, but that one's really dangerous and can only be done for seizure patients, where you do that for medical reasons, and then you can just get research data along the way. That's the only one where you can know both the time and place. But then it's not like you're inserting the electrode into their brain in the place that makes the most sense for science. You're inserting it in the place that's going to be best for their epilepsy treatment. And you're just, the science is an afterthought, as it should be. So that's the issue with our current imaging technologies. It's really hard to imagine. But I do think, you know, I mean, I'm optimistic that within the next 60, 70 years, um, imaging technologies can improve, computational technologies can improve. And at the end of the day, I don't think it would be impossible for us to have a pretty good map, at least, of what parts of the brain light up when you're aware of this particular thing versus that particular thing.
Yeah. I feel like the only thing that would actually be purely satisfying is for us to have a full map of every neuron in the brain and what each one does, and that feels like an impossible task.
Yeah, we just got that for fruit flies.
Yeah, I heard.
Yeah. Yeah, that'll be tricky for people. There's a lot more just numbers of stuff going on.
Although we mapped the human genome.
Yes.
We mapped the human
Yeah,
genome. So you never know.
that's true. I mean, yeah, I don't think it would be great. So what you're talking about is called a connectome. It's like a map of, which is actually literally just genome, but they tack the word connect onto it. But yeah, it's exactly that sort of map. I think a human connectome within our lifetimes is like easily on the table.
Are you ready to say what we always say at the end of the podcast?
Local storm.
Vorpalstorp indeed. If you liked this video, hit that like, and if not,
No
you can
one liked
blame my
it.
brothers. You think no one liked it?
No
People
one
love
liked
my
it.
podcast.
No.
All the past people who were on the podcast listened to it.
If you like the video, hit the like, and if not, you can blame my brothers. Blame my brothers.